for joining today. I think you're going to find it to be important information, and we'll just get started. And it's not going to go more than an hour. As Howard said, if you have questions, put them in the questions box, and we will either answer them here or we will send them out to everybody with complete answers. So, Howard, why don't you go to the first slide?
All right.
We'll talk about us. It's our favorite subject. This presentation, I mean, it's not about us, and we're not trying to sell you anything. But we do want you to know that we have a certain amount of credibility in giving this information. So just really quickly, I would just say that, I am a job search coach, speaker, and author. I've written 3 job search books, 2 of them for international students. 3 Steps to a Job in the USA, which is a very popular, widely read book, given out by universities, and also have a second book for international students, which is why we're doing this today. Howard and I have co-written a book called LinkedIn for International Students, and and we're certainly not going to cover everything that's in that book. I cover LinkedIn in all of my books and all my presentations, but there's lots of detail that you can't cover in any presentation, and that's why we got together and wrote the book. And we're not going to be promoting the book here, but we hope that you'll take a look at it on Amazon or Kindle, etc. So that's what I do. And Howard is a career and executive coach who works with me. One of his specialties is LinkedIn. He works, with professionals and with students, including international students, to help them with their LinkedIn profiles. And we're going to explain to you in the course of this presentation why LinkedIn is important and why your LinkedIn profile can be critical to landing an internship or a job in the U.S. In fact, I'm going to kind of get to that material immediately here. So Howard, if you turn the slide, let me start talking about that. So, before you can really talk about why LinkedIn is important, you really have to understand the criticality of networking to getting an internship or a job in the U.S. And, when I talk to non-international students, like American-born students, and I work with a lot of students, MBA students, business school students, and engineering students, etc. I always explain to them that there was a time in the U.S. when networking was maybe 60% of getting interviews, getting hired. It was about 60% in terms of importance. Today, I tell them that it's 90% because networking has become that important. For international students, I would say it's at least 95%, if not more. And if you look at this slide, what it explains to you is that almost half of employees in the U.S. Are hired on the basis of networking. And that just means simply that maybe an employee hands your resume to a hiring manager or hands your resume to the HR department. And just on that basis, there's a much better chance, maybe 1,000 times chance of getting hired, because every employer has 2 stacks of resumes. They've got a huge stack of resumes that came in over the internet or were uploaded on a university site. But then they have this very small pile of resumes that were handed in by an employee. And before they ever look at that big pile of resumes, they're going to go to that small pile and they're going to see if they have 10 good candidates. And if they do, they may never see that huge pile of resumes where your resume is sitting. So it's really, really important to get your resume submitted, hand-delivered to a company by an employee or by a friend or a relative of the hiring manager or somebody who works in HR. So just in general, half of all employees in the U.S. are hired that way, and probably 95% of international students, even though international students very often really not thinking about that. If the person handing in your resume has met with you and knows something about you, and you've impressed them, they like you, well, you're almost guaranteed to get an interview. And if that person can talk about you on a personal basis, for example, they were your professor, or you worked with them during an internship and they were impressed by your work ethic and your skill set, well, you're almost guaranteed the job as long as you do well on the interview. So that's how important networking is. You're just going to send your resume in over the internet. It's going to be a very frustrating thing. You know, people think it's a numbers game. I send in 300 resumes. Well, somebody's going to call me for an interview. And that may have been true 10 or 20 years ago in the U.S., but it's really not true today. Today, you really have to have when your resume hits the desk of the hiring manager or the HR person, it really needs to be accompanied by a strong recommendation from somebody. Okay, Howard, you can change the slide now.
Okay.
So, you know, networking starts with branding, with self-branding. I probably have some marketing students listening in here and understand the importance of branding. Now, what is branding? Branding is what you think of when you hear, for example, a company name. So if I said the name Disney, well, certain feelings, certain thoughts, certain images are going to come to you, very positive images. Well, you know, when people hear your name, you want them to have the same kind of reaction. In order to get them to have that kind of reaction, you have to position yourself for them to think that way. So you want to be, for example, projecting a consistently positive image. So if somebody asks about you, you know, they can talk about you in very positive, glowing terms. You want other people to highlight your uniqueness, and you want to be able to highlight your uniqueness yourself when you talk to people. And by that I mean, you know, there are no two people listening to this call, who are participating on this webinar today, who have exactly the same skills, strength, education, experience, knowledge, values. Everybody is unique. Unfortunately, that uniqueness doesn't come through in your resume. In fact, if I saw the resume of hundreds of international students, and I used to when I was working in the Career Center at IIT, they really all kind of look the same. But when you're talking to somebody or somebody is talking on your behalf, you want them to highlight your uniqueness and articulate a strong value proposition. And by that I mean, when somebody talks about you or you talk about yourself, what you're trying to communicate are the reasons why somebody should hire you rather than somebody else. What are those 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons that I should hire you rather than somebody else when there are hundreds of people trying to get the same position? So how are you going to change the slide now?
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so there are many ways to build your brand that people have a very positive impression of you that can lead to a job interview and to being hired, being given an internship. One way is the value statement. We're not going to get into all of this today, but it's all in my books and our workshops. Value statement, and many of you know it as the elevator pitch. It's what you say when somebody meets you and they ask you, oh, hey, tell me about yourself, or what school do you go to, or what do you do? It's how you respond. And how you respond very often makes a difference between whether that person is going to help you get a job interview, for example, or they're just going to move on without doing anything for you. Another way to build your brand is to show passion. You've probably noticed in the U.S. people get very passionate about sports teams, for example. Well, it's very important that you show passion for your career, because if you show passion for your career, people are going to remember that. They're going to remember you. And if an opportunity comes up, they're going to think of you. The way you dress, your wardrobe, is very, very important to the way people think about you. If you have a name card, the way that's designed says a lot about you. Your email address is very important. in terms of the image that you project. So, for example, if you have an email address that's something like crazy Chinese chick at me.com or classclown at Gmail, that's going to send a very different kind of a message than if you had something that sounded professional. If you have a blog or a portfolio, anything that's going to show your uniqueness. And one of the major ways that you can communicate your uniqueness on a broad scale is through social media. Now, Facebook, Weibo, Twitter, Pinterest, all of those have their place. But the most important social media for anybody trying to get a job in the U.S. is LinkedIn. The posts you put up there, the media you put up there, you can even put up a video resume. You can do lots of things that can make you stand out so that people pay attention to your profile, and they might even find you without you really doing much for them to locate you. So let's go to the next slide, Howard. Sorry. Okay, we're going to the next slide. Okay, so what can a compelling LinkedIn profile do to you? A compelling LinkedIn profile. It can greatly increase your chances for an internship or an OPT job leading to H-1B sponsorship, if that's what you want. Even if you're looking just for a couple of internships, or you're just looking to work on your OPT for 6 months or a year before you go back to your home country, LinkedIn is just as valuable, because getting any kind of a job related to your studies, which is what you need to do, it's made so much easier if you have a compelling LinkedIn profile, and we're going to go through all that, because it's going to inspire others to help your job search through informational interviews. Informational interviews are one of the keys to getting a job in the U.S. In fact, it's very often the key to getting a job in the U.S., and it comprises the major chapter in my books and also in my workshops. Informational interview, for those of you who don't know, is simply usually a 20 or 30-minute meeting with somebody who can recommend you for an interview, recommend you for a job, give you valuable information and advice. One of the great mistakes that international students make is that they go around talking about jobs. They talk about, do you know of a job? Is your company hiring? Do you know of a company that sponsors international students? That's not an effective way to get people to help you. The most effective way is to ask them simply for information or advice, and that's what an informational interview is. If you impress them, during an informational interview, they're going to volunteer to help you to get an interview. It allows employers to find you. If you have a compelling LinkedIn profile, using keywords strategically, employers are going to find you. As I said a minute ago, you're not going to have to do much. They're going to find you. Happens all the time with my coaching clients. And your LinkedIn profile says a lot about you. It says the quality of your LinkedIn profile says a lot about the kind of quality that you might bring to your work. And also it says a lot about your networking and socialization skills. If you have a LinkedIn profile that's not well developed and maybe you have 20 or 30 or 50 contacts, it doesn't really say much about your ability to integrate into a U.S. company. And also, the better your LinkedIn profile is, the more positive and confident you're going to be in pursuing a job in the U.S. All right, Howard, let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
So, why LinkedIn? I mean, LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. It's got 300 million members and growing every day, hundreds of thousands of groups that you can join. And almost every important professional in the U.S. is on LinkedIn, and they use LinkedIn. And when I say they use LinkedIn, I say to most international students, "Are you on LinkedIn?" They say, "Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn." But that's kind of like saying I'm in the phone book. Just being there is not doing anything for you. You have to have a compelling profile, and you have to actively use LinkedIn. And then another reason is, of course, somebody hears your name and they go to the internet and they go to Google and they do a search on you, the first thing that's going to come up is your LinkedIn profile. And they're going to take a look at your LinkedIn profile, and if they're not satisfied with what they see, they're not going to pursue a discussion with you or recommend you for a job interview or help you in any way. Okay, go ahead. We're almost up to your part, Howard.
Thank you.
Okay. Some specific reasons to use LinkedIn. Build your professional brand. And I spoke about a brand a few slides ago. There are two kinds of brands that you have. One is your personal brand, sometimes confused with your professional brand, and that's kind of the brand that you might have on Facebook. It's what your friends think of you when they see your photo or they see your posts or that kind of a thing. But your professional brand is what people think about you in a career sense. It's what an employer thinks about you based upon what they learn about you. LinkedIn can help you find contacts at your target organizations for information on job interviews. So let's say you're pursuing a job at a Big Four company, which a lot of international students do. It will help you locate the right people at those companies, and if you say and do the right things, they will work with you to set up an informational interview that can lead to a job interview. Once you have those informational job interviews, you can do some very valuable research of the people who you're going to be meeting with at the company that you're going to be interviewing. And also you're going to learn a lot about the company itself. You're going to demonstrate your communication, network, and social media skills, as I said a minute ago. And you're going to find out where your classmates and your alumni are interning and working. And by the way, nobody is going to be more willing to help you than people who have gone to your same undergraduate and or graduate universities. I have a client right now who I've been working with for about a month, and she has only contacted people from the university that she attended, her graduate university. And she has, I'd say in 4 weeks, she's probably had 20 informational interviews and maybe 6 or 8 job interviews already, only by simply focusing on alumni from her university. A very, very important facet and information that you can find on LinkedIn. And engage in passive search. And passive search, I've already discussed a couple of times in other terms. It's where they find you. Employers are scanning LinkedIn all day long using keywords and looking for candidates. So if you have the right keywords strategically located in your LinkedIn profile, they're going to find you, they're going to bring you in for an interview, and if you do well, you're going to get hired. Go ahead, Howard. So your professional brand should communicate, the issues you care about, the problems you solve, the opportunities you create, all the things that make you unique.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Steve. Okay, before we go on, I mean, the rest of the slides are going to be very centric towards LinkedIn.
Okay, so it's up to you.
But
so how do you carry on from this point? I will rejoin the conversation at the end.
Great. Can everybody hear me okay, hopefully? So before we change the slide, I really want you to think about these 3 questions. What issues you care about, what problems you solve, what opportunities you create. If you can answer these questions, you can create a very compelling headline in your LinkedIn profile. You're going to see shortly why the LinkedIn headline is so important. It also speaks to the problems you solve. Based on the work, what you've studied, the work that you're doing, who is benefiting from this? Okay, and then what opportunities do you create as a result of doing the work that you do. So this is going to show up, these answers to these questions are going to show up in multiple places throughout your LinkedIn profile. So what we're going to go through is just kind of take you through what I would call a maturity model. And we're going to talk a little bit about the navigation, not much, but then we're going to get into the profile sections. We're going to talk about the importance of the groups, the companies, and the individuals that you're following. And then we're going to give you some techniques about how to share content, either content that you've written or content that you've picked up from others who you're following, or content that you've read, and now you want to share it with your connections. So this is the LinkedIn, homepage. So when you get onto LinkedIn, this is the first thing you're going to see. There's a lot of navigational aids that you want to become familiar with while you're on LinkedIn. And I typically will talk about the gray bar navigation. That's the topmost bar. The most important feature for you as you're doing your research, and I use the word research because I often talk to my own clients that LinkedIn is, yes, it's a job board. Yes, it's a place for an electronic version of your profile. It's also important to know LinkedIn is not an electronic version of your resume, because this is going to be providing much more expansive information than just your resume. But this is a wonderful research tool. And so what I'd like you to just get familiar with is, up on the gray bar, use the search field, because you can search for a lot of different content. You also want to keep track of the individuals who are visiting your profile. Now, when I do my workshops, I don't conduct them from the perspective that a individual has upgraded their LinkedIn membership, because you can pay to become a LinkedIn member and you get some other features and functionality available to you. One thing I do, however, is, Steve, if you're typing right now, can you stop that? Thanks. Or just put yourself on mute. Why you care about the visitors is, these are people, because they have found you typically using the search engine. They're looking for somebody that has your skills and your expertise. So it's important every day, whether it's the middle of the day, beginning, end, is to periodically look and see who's visiting your profile. The other thing you want to do on a consistent basis is to share updates with your connections. And when we share updates, we are sharing an update. For example, Steve and I are facilitating a workshop, LinkedIn for International Students today. That's an update. Or I'm attending a conference, or I'm attending a networking event. The more you share updates, the more top of mind you will be to your connections and to the public, and to the individuals who are members of the groups that you have also joined. Sharing updates is also your vehicle for sharing content that you find on LinkedIn and from other online sources. And as long as content is online, and you feel it's valuable, then it becomes the basis for sharing content with your connections or with the people you're trying to increase your networking influence with. You also want to periodically look at what are the updates that are coming in from other people in the LinkedIn universe. So are your connections sharing content? Are the companies that you're following sharing content? Are the groups that you are a member of, are they sharing content? All these are going to show up on the activity feed. And so it's important to keep track of what is happening there. And finally, as Steve mentioned earlier, one of the most effective ways to elevate your presence, your online presence, and also to demonstrate your expertise is to think about blogging. Now, we can certainly blog if you've got a blogger site, or Google has a site where you can blog, or maybe you have a website, you can blog there, but you can also blog on LinkedIn. It's called LinkedIn Pulse, and we'll see a little bit more about that shortly. But think about blogging as a way to increase your presence on LinkedIn. The more you participate, whether it's sharing content or blogging, you're going to stay top of mind on LinkedIn. Now, there is an area of LinkedIn that you do need to get familiar with, and this is the privacy and settings area. And you get to there by clicking on if you've got a picture on LinkedIn, so your profile picture, up in the upper right-hand corner is your picture, and you can kind of see where my cursor, you can kind of see it right here. Okay, what you want to do is you want to look at the privacy and settings so that you can update the settings. And this is going to be important for you because you want to be able to control what content you get and who's sharing content with you. You also want to make sure, if you've got a Twitter account, that you're connecting your Twitter profile to your LinkedIn profile. The other thing is, when somebody Googles you on LinkedIn, this is typically what they're going to see. They're going to see a profile picture. Actually, when they Google you, you're going to see the initial results. And typically what that is, it's your profile picture and it's the headline that you're using on LinkedIn. What you can control also what they see in your profile using these little check boxes down here. So again, you need to go into this privacy and settings area and look at what the public profile looks like, and you want to be able to control what people see using these check boxes. Let's talk a little bit about some of the must-have profile sections in LinkedIn. Now, again, we're kind of moving away from what a resume looks like, but what we will see besides our picture, and everybody should have a picture on LinkedIn, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but everybody will have a headline. What you don't have out of the box is not everybody has a summary. In this summary, it's akin to your profile, your summary profile on your resume. But the summary, if you go back to those 3 questions I talk about, what issues do I work with? What problems do I solve? What opportunities do I create? The summary is an opportunity for you to share what your professional brand is with anybody who's reading your profile. So everybody, you have to have a summary. Not having one is a reason for somebody to bypass your profile. If your profile is rather long, there's an additional information section that you can also include. And I also do recommend that you include your email address on your profile. So this gives people, you're giving people your email address so they can reach out to you and attempt to connect with you right away. So make it easy for people to connect with you. The next thing is the experience section. This is probably the closest component that is akin to your resume. So this is your job experience. But the difference is the experience section can get rather lengthy depending on the type of work that you do. And there's also a number of subsections. They're actually profile sections in their own right, but they actually will appear inside your experience section, and that's having a recommendation, or it's having a project, or it's attaching files such as PowerPoint slides, videos. And so, again, the more you're sharing with your connections, the more opportunity they're getting to know you. Finally, next, skills and endorsements. These are the skills. Imagine somebody wants to Google you, and they need to find you with your specific skills and expertise. Having the right selection of skills is going to make you more easy to be found, and your search results are going to show up higher in Google, or they're going to show up higher if somebody does a search for your skill in LinkedIn. Again, I've got everybody on mute, so hopefully any background noise will go away shortly. We also want to talk about, again, the projects. In your resume, underneath an experience section, there's typically a bullet or a hyphen and a one-line piece of text. In the career coaching field, we call these your CARs, your challenge that you faced, the action you took, and the results that came about that activity. The project is a way to really expand the type of work that you've been doing and what you accomplished on a particular project inside this experience or this job you had. And so projects is a very valuable profile section in LinkedIn. And so it shows up as it's a standalone section, but you can also see it when you look at each individual's experience. The other profile section that's valuable is your education, because this is going to tell people where you went to school. Now, depending on your area of profession, there's other profile sections that may be valuable to you, whether you have publications, certifications, courses, volunteering, maybe you speak multiple languages, or honors and awards. So these are things you can certainly bring into your LinkedIn profile. You can also take them away. But I look at these as secondary to the ones I showed you on the earlier page. Another couple hints that I want to give you is when you create your profile, when you're in edit mode, you can actually organize the sections so that it more effectively tells a story about who you are. So you'll notice when you're in edit mode, just look for the you've got a vertical arrow, two-sided arrow, and you can move your profile sections around. The one section that cannot be moved is if you are doing blogging, that's LinkedIn Pulse, but any section within LinkedIn can be moved around. Now, I always recommend that the summary is number one, but if you've got a PhD, maybe your publications are important. So maybe you'll put those publications before you put your job experience. You also want to look at adding files to your profile. Now, you can add files to your summary section as well as to your experience. Once again, these could be, maybe you've got an online a video resume. Maybe you've presented a paper at a conference or produced a slide presentation that, as long as it's publicly, you own it or it's publicly available and you were involved with it, this is an opportunity for you to share some content. Also, add logos. Most companies have a LinkedIn company page. If they don't, they really should. And those companies have a logo, and that's another way to get some brand recognition, because it's sharing with people, hey, he shared information about the company he works for. Also, you want to keep track of the formatting and the content you're writing on your profile. It's very important that you not have a lot of long, dense paragraphs. Steve referenced a few minutes ago coaching at IIT, some of a technical university here in Chicago, and I was looking at some resumes the other day, and while I think the school they mean well and how they're coaching their students, but long dense paragraphs, especially if you have a very highly technical pool of expertise, that's going to make your resume, it's going to make your profile on LinkedIn very hard to read. So it's important that you have, what I would call content to white space ratio. You want short content, you want to use bullets, you want to use some uppercase formatting, you want to use some symbols that you can pull from your Microsoft Word file, or if you've got an Apple computer, like bullet points, arrows, stars. But you want to make sure your profile is as readable as possible, and you want to make sure that your keywords are being used throughout your profile. Now, I often talk about prime real estate on a LinkedIn profile, and prime real estate 1 and 2 is your picture. You have to have a picture. Not having a picture on your LinkedIn profile is a reason for somebody, a recruiter, a hiring manager, maybe even the individual you want to have that informational interview with. It's a reason for them not to want to get together with you. And if you have a picture, you want to make sure it's a good quality picture. If your school, if you're not in school, investing in a good photographer that can take some good quality pictures that you can use on your LinkedIn, that's a really good investment. Because you use these for presentations you're given, you're going to use it for a bio if you use a bio, but having a good quality picture is going to let people know, hey, he or she's friendly, they look knowledgeable, and they look like somebody I want to meet. The next piece that's incredibly important, second most important piece of real estate, is your headline. I see so many people, current clients, all they do is they share their current job position and the company that they work for. So, for example, it could have said, Steven Steinfeld, president of Steinfeld Coaching, and that's all they use. That's a missed opportunity to share your professional brand with your clients. Again, you get back to those three questions I speak to. What issues do you care about? What problems do you solve? What opportunities do you create? So now when I see Steve's profile, if I'm Googling him or if I see it from a search result on LinkedIn, I can see right away, oh, Steve is a job search and career coach. He's a speaker. He works with MBA and international students. He's a career specialist. He's also an author. Now I'm getting a feel for who Steve is, and it's going to do two things. It's going to prompt me to want to get to know him further, which means I'm going to read his profile, and I'm potentially going to reach out to him. All right, let me get back to... All right, there we go. So this is the example for me. Notice too, underneath your profile, you have what's called a profile URL. And this is your unique address on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, when LinkedIn gives it to you, it also includes some alphanumeric characters on the end. So what you want to do is you want to edit those, and you'll do that on the same page where you saw your public profile results. But you want to share your profile URL. You want to put it on your bio. You want to put it on your resume. If you've got a business card, put it on your business card. Use it in your email signature. Make it easy for people to reach out and connect with you. We already talked about the profile picture. You've got to have one, professional quality, success, and we also talked about the professional headline. You've got a maximum of 120 characters to work with. This is your professional brand. And this is the beginning of how people are going to start to get to know you. Also, once you get a feel for what those keywords are in your profile, again, this is what are people going to use to find you. You want to make sure you are interspersing those keywords throughout your profile. Also, while we're on this slide, notice I've got some very short sentences. I'm highlighting I've got short sentences here. I'm breaking apart my sections. So here is what I would call I'm directing my message to this group of people right here. I have what's called a call to action, but I'm telling people what I do. And that's what's the key here is you're telling people the type of work that you do. And you're making it easy for them to get to know you. All right, let me erase the drawing. The other thing, again, in your profile is as we get into the participation in the sections of LinkedIn, is if you are a writer, if you like to write, consider writing about the things you know best in your profession. And this is LinkedIn Post. This is LinkedIn's version of a blog. And so I would encourage you to think about once a month, once a week, once every other week, but try to get used to writing and publishing on LinkedIn. The more you publish, the more people are going to be connecting with you, the more people are going to be visiting your profile, and now you're raising your professional brand on LinkedIn. The other thing you want to do in your summary is if you have specific tools of the trade. So for example, I use a number of coaching tools. List those in your summary section. Now, those bullets, you cannot create a bullet in LinkedIn. You can most certainly copy and paste one into your, from your word processing document into your profile. Also, again, share content. So every time, for example, that I do a speaking engagement, kind of like today, I update a spreadsheet every time. I've got some PowerPoint presentations. I have some flyers from events that I have facilitated. So think about what type of content can I share on LinkedIn and put that into my summary section. In level 2, again, we talk about our skills. We want to make sure that we're selecting the right skills to use on my profile, and also skills that people in my profession are going to look for, or even people who need somebody in my profession because they need assistance. So if somebody needs executive coach, they're going to use executive coaching in the search bar. They're going to Google executive coaching in Chicago, and I'm going to show up. Same thing with the other skills. If there's variations of the skills, so maybe there's a number of ways to talk about leadership development or coaching or training, use variations of those skills. Those can be very effective for you in your searches. This other field over here, these are LinkedIn's endorsements. Now, I typically find that a lot of students, young professionals don't have a lot of endorsements. You can certainly turn those off, because ultimately what's important and what will remain if you turn the endorsements off is these skills. This is really important, because now by using these skills in your profile, in your headline, and doing your research for the groups that use these skills, the people who have these skills, the companies that are hiring for these skills, now you're beginning to use LinkedIn as a research tool. When we talked about prime real estate, I mentioned projects earlier. So developing extraordinary relationships with Everything Disc assessments. This is a project that's under my experience section. And now I've just expanded that bullet, say on the resume, to go into a lot more detail about the work I did on a project. And if I'm connected with the people on LinkedIn, I can also include them as part of my project. So that's the equivalent of your project team. So when you're working on a team at work, you want to make sure that if they're on LinkedIn, that you've connected with them. Let's also talk about now how we know about our profile sections. We know how to order them. Let's talk about how we kind of grow our participation and really expand our influence and other people's awareness of us in LinkedIn. And one way we do this is by our groups that we join. And what you want to look for are 3 kinds of groups: your professional groups, your scholarly groups, and groups that are of special interest. So professional groups, and I just use this as an example. Let's say I'm an engineer. There's over 16,000 groups for engineering that speak English, so let's assume we're in the United States. So what I want to do is start to research these groups. Are these groups that I might want to join? What you're looking for in any group that you join is, are they large enough, and are there active discussions going on? What you don't want to do, unless you specifically care about a particular group, is you want to look for groups that are large enough and have active discussions. You can also look for scholarly groups, something that's related to the research that you do, the work that you do. And here we can get more specific here. So you want a good cross-section of groups. I've got groups that are of special interest. related to my profession. Maybe I'm involved in some community groups. Maybe I'm a member of Toastmasters or LitTip, which is a networking group. Or I am a member of PAWS, which is a group that cares about taking care of pets, dogs, cats. So you've got your professional, your scholarly, and your special interest groups. The next part of your branding is to start to find the companies that you might be interested in doing working for, or at least initiating in your research. I want to find out more about a particular company and kind of pursue some informational interviews. Here's now, as I've searched for companies, for example, using engineering research, and in the United States, let's see, we've got well over 15,000 groups worldwide, but what I can also do is I can filter those by location. And these then become my way of researching a group and what they do, and I can research, again, are they producing content that I might want to share? And I can also look at my connections on LinkedIn to see, are these people potentially folks I want to work with? Once I start to research individuals, especially ones that work for companies or in the groups that I'm a member of, is I want to start to follow them. You want to follow people whose work you respect, and you also want to follow people who are contributing within the LinkedIn community. So they're actually publishing blogs in addition to having their professional role in their organization. So this example here, Kai-Fu Lee is an engineer. He's also a very prolific blog writer. So this is potentially somebody I may want to participate with and follow and maybe even connect with. So some strategies for managing your connection prospects. Make sure you're reviewing people's profiles carefully. Look for information that will allow you to pitch your services in just the right way. And Steve, I do believe this is your slide, so if you want to take it back for a minute, go right ahead. And if you're on mute, you want to unmute.
No, this slide here, managing, this is...
Okay, this is me? Okay.
My slide, Howard.
All right. Okay. So again, we want to review our profiles carefully. Always review someone's profile before you connect with them. You always want to see how active they are. How frequently do they update? Are they publishing content? Look at their connections, particularly those who work at companies that you're interested in. Now you're starting to create a path to meet new people, make new connections, and have that all-important informational interview. Other strategies are to check out the past companies your potential prospects are working for. So maybe they're working for a current company today. If you look at the past companies they work for, maybe even that's an even better opportunity for you. Review the contact information in their profile. A lot of times they've got their web address, they've got their email, they may even have a phone number. They may also even be connected to Twitter. And so now you're starting to create new ways to interact with them. And look and see what common interest you have. What groups are they joining? Because if I can then join a group that somebody else that I'm interested in is a member of. Now I've got a great vehicle in which to reach out and initiate a conversation. When we talk about level 4, this is the content that you write and share. So when we looked at the home page on LinkedIn, we did the sharing up of the update, and notice again I've got a text box so that I can key in some content, but I can also make my connection to Twitter. And I can also, it's in this piece of the text box, there's a little picture icon, and this is also where I can upload a picture as well. There's LinkedIn posts, so I can see the blogs that are out there. So that would be kind of a search based on specific topics. So that one slide we had earlier, this was from science to fiction, from science fiction to engineering reality by this Kai-Fu Lee. So this is how I found that particular post, and then I went out and I researched his profile. So here's the actual post that he shared. Always look on content for these social media links. This is very important. This is your opportunity now to share this blog back to your connections on LinkedIn. And then when you share content on LinkedIn, don't just share it and that's it. Tell people why you thought it was an insightful article or blog post. If you didn't agree with it, come up with a rebuttal for why maybe it didn't go far enough, or maybe it didn't include some current relevant information that you have available to you. Use this to start a dialogue, a discussion. We're not looking to, harm anybody or to ruin anybody's feelings. We're looking to get into a dialogue. So a couple, list of crucial takeaways. Keep your profiles up to date. Message, communicate with your connections. Remember to continually share your content. Publish if you can. If people do comment on something you've shared, or they like something you've shared, acknowledge them back. Thank you for the comment. Thank you for the share. Share people's updates. If somebody in a group that you're a member of or a peer created something, share that with your connections. Visit people's profiles. Get to know those profiles, especially before you initiate a connection with them. Endorse and recommend people. I actually do recommend the recommendation over the endorsement, because recommendations are important, because these are the people that you've worked with. They know about the work that you do. And above all, stay active and consistent. So you've got to use LinkedIn as a tool consistently. Once you stop it, you stop being top of mind. Also, the final LinkedIn tips, and complete your profile so it's 100%. So that means having a summary, having a job experience, having skills, having a profile picture. Again, pay attention to the photo, the headline, the summary, how it's constructed. Add the sections that you need, including media like PowerPoints, videos, etc. Bringing your profile up so it's available for the recruiters. Always send customized invitations to connect with people. Never, ever just use that vanilla, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. By having a customized invitation, you are acknowledging that you are a professional, you are familiar with the online etiquette, and you're comfortable with social media. So always customize your connections. Click through on your skills, and in the endorsement section, when you're in the skills and endorsement section, when you're in the view so that your connections see, you can actually click on that skill and it will give you a lot of background information about how that skill is being used throughout the LinkedIn universe. And as Steve had shared early on, focus on your alumni. They are a great and invaluable way to increase your network. LinkedIn, yes, it's a job board, and Steve focuses a lot more on that. I focus more on using LinkedIn as that research tool, but it's also important. If you see an opportunity out there, use that job board to research the opportunities as well. You can get a lot of great content from that job board.
All right. Let me just summarize here. So go to the last. Okay. So as I said at the beginning, we're really just scratching the surface here. Even with like an hour discussion of this. If you want to know more, get our book LinkedIn for International Students. It not only has everything about LinkedIn, much more than we were able to cover today, all the details of how to use the various features of LinkedIn and build a compelling profile, but it also has a section on branding, and it has a major chapter on informational interviews, because informational interviews is really where you want your LinkedIn activity to take you. If you have any questions or you want a question answered about anything that we covered here today, you can contact me or Howard. Here are email addresses. If you want to have a specific discussion, or if you need help in actually developing a compelling LinkedIn profile, I suggest that you contact Howard. If you want to have a broader discussion about your job search challenges, you can contact me, or you can read my book, 3 Steps to Your Job in the USA, and send me your questions there. You can join my LinkedIn group, Steinfeld Coaching for International Students, and we're also on Facebook, and we have an iPhone app, and lots of resources that are free to international students. But please send us your questions, and if we get questions, we'll be happy to disseminate the answers to everybody. So I hope,
Steve, I just want to add one other point. If you thought this presentation was valuable and you'd like to have us present it to a larger audience within your peer group, or you'd like a kind of a more detailed workshop on LinkedIn, we both Steve and I are very comfortable working virtually as well as in person. We're more than happy to work with you. I mean, for example, at a university here in Chicago next month, I've got a series of workshops with some postdoctorate fellows that teaching them as a part of their program how to also use LinkedIn to develop, professional relationships, and to use this LinkedIn as it's part of their branding tool. So, if you think there's opportunities, and we'd love to chat with you about that. Okay, Steve.
Yeah, on the same token, if you would like us or me or Howard or both of us to come on campus, please give our information to the people who work with international students at your university, and we can organize to either have books delivered to their students, or we could come on campus and give a series of workshops on LinkedIn and job search in the USA, and we'd be happy to do that. We do that on a regular basis. So I hope, and this is the very, very last thing, everybody on this call should get LinkedIn with both me and Howard. We both have extensive LinkedIn networks, including professionals in almost every major industry in the U.S., and you should definitely make it a point, if nothing else, to get LinkedIn with us. Just mention that you were a participant on this call, and we will accept your invitation immediately. Thanks, everybody, and again, if you need to speak with us further, we'll be very happy to do so. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you online on LinkedIn. Take care now.